Well, thank you everyone for attending. We're going to go ahead and get started today. We're going to be going over the IDTech Sign and Pay pin pad device, and I'm going to try to show you the device in our camera here shortly, and we're going to show you how it works and show you more about it. Again, we always do our Keystroke live at 9 o'clock every Thursday, and we'll get started. I'm going to go ahead and hold this up, and again there's a glare on the screen, but I'll try to cut down the glare a little later. This is the IDTech Sign and Pay device. It has a pin pad, as you can see, signature capture. I've got the pen right here. It's got the card swipe at the top, and this is an end-to-end encrypted device. This is kind of the big rave. This works with Mercury payment systems, or Mercury. It is a USB device, so I've got one cable here plugged in just to the front of my computer in this case, but there's no driver needed. And this has all the bells and whistles. It's PCI compliant. It's triple DES, duck-put encryption, and end-to-end encryption. They actually do 2 encryptions on this device at somewhere like JR's POS Depot. It is has the mag strip reader at the top, encrypted with the end-to-end encryption key, and it has the pin pad encrypted with the duck-put encryption key. Let's go ahead and open Keystroke, and I'll show you some of the settings and how to get this working. I've already entered into Sales Manager. That's why you were able to see on the screen that it said please wait. First, let me go show you a quick setup. We're going to go to Configuration Manager, and we're going to go to Hardware and Pin Pad. And again, from the list, we're selecting the IDTech Sign and Pay, and it kind of has the model number on here if you notice it. What's important about it is that the ending is a 1M, means it's encrypted for Mercury. And I'll go ahead and select Enter on it. As you can see, the port is already defined by the unit, and so we don't really have a chance to change that. There is a test button here. We did have some problems with one of the newer devices, which now we have resolved. We would recommend you be on the current version of Keystroke, 7.15 build 35, as released yesterday. Build 34 fixed the issue about, I call it the song and dance, but what it is how we talk back and forth to the device and how we can ask it to do a manual enter and so forth. And later on we're going to show you how you would probably do manual entry on devices that machines in your network that do not have this device. So I say OK to this here, and on the device it's saying reset, and it comes back with the please wait. I say OK to this one. There are some lights on top where we can actually display the red and the green lights. They're on right now. I think when I hit OK they should go off. Back to green. Just shows me some information on the screen here, the serial number and the backlit and so forth. Now it's waiting for customer input. This is used for like purchase cards. It's a screen that's not really used very often. This is a number key 1 through 10, and in this case I can type in just about any number I would like here, and I type these in from this little keypad here, and then I hit the green button. This is for if you have, let's say, a corporate card and you have your own customer ID. We call it a purchase card in Keystroke. Comes up saying try again, which means just if I want to try it again, I don't. I'm going to say no. Now it talks about the account number. Let's see if I can get a good picture of this on the screen. This is where if the customer comes in and the swipe does not work because of a damaged card, for instance, they can manually enter this. I'll go ahead and enter something. And I've entered our Mercury test account number. Sorry about the glare again. This one is much easier to see in person than on the screen. I'm going to hit the green key. Now it asks me for an expiration date on the device ending keystroke. And I just put this in as it asks for it in month, year. I put 0514, no slash, of course. Now it asks me for a CVV2 number. Any 3-digit number or 4-digit number will work. I'm just putting in 123. It does mask that, actually. And hit the green key again. And now it tells me that the manual card entry was successful. That's on our keystroke screen. Now it's asking me to swipe the card, and if you look on the device, I'm going to use the Mercury test cards we get from Mercury. I'm going to swipe it here. And then it shows me the information. The credit card number mask. Test MPS is actually the card holder name. And it asks me if I want to test it again. I'll say no. Now it asks me for the PIN number, and this is where I use the PIN pad, and this is a 4-digit number. Any 4 digits will work in this test. And I put 4 in and hit OK. Valid PIN received. Say OK. So that's the test process right there in setting up the PIN pad. And it's the test button over here on the right. I'm going to say OK. We now need to set up the signature capture. There's signature capture there. I'll hit enter. Again, I select the IDTech sign and pay. This timeout seconds, you can change this. We usually leave it at 20. In this case, I'm going to display the signature on the screen. And again, I can use the test device option. Again, it kind of just says it's talking to the port. Now you'll see on the screen here, it gives you an amount, $123.45. Asks me to sign. And I'll do my great signature, which looks even better on a device. So I hit the accept button. There's my great little signature. And that's just showing it on the screen. The device is back in the please wait mode, I believe, when I hit OK here. And say OK again. And now we're going to go take a look here at the security levels. I'm sorry, let me just go. We're going to go to the payment types underneath security levels. This is where we're going to go set up the authorization methods to do what we want. So just as we normally do, credit cards, we have one here called Visa MasterCard. We're going to talk about this a little later about how to do a manual card, which requires a different merchant account, which Mercury does give you, one for manually entered and one for the device. And I'll hit enter on Visa MasterCard here. These are our usual settings. In this case, I'm going to actually print the print button I've set up earlier called the credit card with signature. This is actually a Keystroke standard receipt that prints a lovely signature on your receipt if you care for it. And the auth method. This is important. We're using, again, KP credit as our default. We hit F3 to edit this. Again, everything is mostly blank here. We are just turning on capture signature in this case. I do not have skipped approved message. That's a feature you can turn on that'll, if it's approved, it just moves right on. If it's not approved, of course, you will see a message. So, but in this case, I want you to see the approval message or the decline message we're going to get. And in this case, this device, normally we have these 2 boxes checked for CVV2 if it's manually entered. And I think I have KeyPay down here. And I'll hit the old test KeyPay button just to make sure. Yep. So Keystroke is talking to KeyPay. This is just our standard authorization method. Oh, and I'm sorry. I guess the important part. The card reader needs to be set to PIN pad card swipe only. And you'll see a slight difference on the one for the duck put. All right, we're going to say OK, OK. And of course, you're taking ATM or debit, or you can call it debit PIN, whatever you want to name this. Most all the same settings are set up. As default, you can look at our tutor data for credit cards. You'll see what that. Most of those are set up that way. This is a different authorization method called KP debit. Notice some differences here. One main one is the card reader is the duck put encryption. And again, I don't have skip approval on. I do not have capture signature on. My belief is I think when you do a PIN debit, you don't need a signature. And of course, you could turn that on if you want. I'm going to say OK. And OK again. Now let's go give this a try in Sales Manager. So I'm leaving Configuration Manager, going to Sales Manager. And we'll go ahead and start a sale. I'm going to select the Visa payment type here, and I'm going to do a real credit card. This actually device we have here is been encrypted for the live account, so it does not work for testing. And so I'm going to select Visa MasterCard. I'm going to swipe a credit card here. There we have our approval message. On the screen it says approved, by the way. I'll say OK. Now it's asking me to record the signature, and there's the dollar amount on there. And if you notice, I didn't say confirm amount or show dollar amount because I did see it already on there. So I will sign the best I can here. Squiggly. So now you see the signature there. And this is optional. You don't have to have the clerks see this every time, nor do you have to have it printed. I just have this up for demonstration purposes. So I'll close that either by hitting escape or clicking the X. Then I've set up this print button for the credit card with the signature. And this is again one of our standard forms. It shows the credit card number here, cardholder name. Thank you, Dave Hunsinger, for your credit card this morning. And this is my signature at the bottom, and this is a form message at the bottom if you'd like, and you can print 1 or 2 copies. I'm just doing this to the screen. Go ahead and close that, and the transaction's saved. Now we're going to do an example of another transaction. This time we're going to do, again, Visa. I can go through the ATM debit process here. It just asks for the PIN, but it's going to get declined because I don't have I'm not going to use a valid card with the PIN today. But what I'd like to do is show you the options here. Let's say the customer's having troubles and they're being asked to swipe the card, and they swipe it and it doesn't work. The clerk has the option to say, well, would you like to manually enter your card on the device? And this is required that the device is used, not any other mag strip reader nor keyboard. So the clerk would hit the escape key, and it comes back and says card swipe failed, try again. They could say yes or no here, and I'm going to say no. Now it asks me would I like to manually enter the card on the PIN pad. Again, not on the keyboard nor on a mag strip reader. I say yes, and now it's asking me for account number. And for this example, I'm going to use the Mercury test account number. Expiration date I'm putting is 05/14. I think anything in the future works. It is asking me for the CVV2 number. And I hit enter, and this one should go through and get declined because I'm using a test card with a live device on a live account. But here's another option here. Let me show you how we can give you an example that we might not have gone over last week. Let's say you have, whoops, I should hit escape there. And I'm going to just save this as an on hold and maybe come back to it. Let's say you have 3 registers up front and you have 3 of these PIN pad devices, but you'd also like to take orders over the phone. And so you would have to have a second merchant account set up. And I'll show you how this is set up in KeyPay. Oops, sorry, I gotta pull it up. Settings. Here's our default account, and I'm going to move past this and go to our manual account. I set up this alternate ID by clicking on Add ID, and I typed in manual. You could type in anything you'd like there. And then I put in the merchant number for the test account, 494901. It's running from this KS Live folder. I'm going to hit Save. And then I hit on the settings, I hide this, and now I'm going to go back to Keystroke. And let's go look in Configuration Manager. Under Tables, Sales Payment Types. In advance of this meeting, I decided to set up one called Credit Card Manual. And here it has almost all the same settings set up. We do have a difference here that the auth method, I've created a new one called KP Manual just by hitting the Insert key. And if we F3 to edit this, you'll see I have a different settings ID. This is what tells Keystroke what to go to a different account. And it's a credit card. And in this case, I do have CVV2 turned on. The card reader is none or wedge, which means pretty much a keyboard or a mag strip reader that's like a USB device. In this example, I am going to skip the approval message. And since this is manually entered, the card's probably not present, so we're not going to be getting signatures. So I'll say OK, OK again, F10 to save this. And now back to Sales Manager, and we'll do one last little test here. And this time I'm going to pull up that on hold, and let's say the back office had to, I don't know, call somebody for this on hold order, and they were going to pay it by credit card over the phone, and I could change the name. I could say, you know, telephone order or M-Moto or whatever you want to call it. I call it Credit Card Manual. When I hit enter here, the standard screen comes up. So you don't have to have a device on every machine, but the credit cards going through the mag strip reader are going to be encrypted with end-to-end. The ones that are going to be manually entered are going to be pretty much the standard way we've been doing it for a long time, which is still PCI compliant. And then here we go. Oops, don't typo now. That's the Mercury test account number. I'm typing in. Expiration date here is 12/15, so I'll go ahead and type that in. When I hit enter, it's asking me for the CVV2 number. I believe it's 123 is what they always use. Say OK. Now this is going to go out to Mercury under a different account. I had the test, the approved message skip, and I could have had it print immediately. If so, this would be a standard credit card receipt showing the credit card number at the bottom and no signature, and so you can have different options there. That's kind of the conclusion of our meeting. I'm going to open up the unmute everybody. If anyone has a question, this would be a good time to ask, and I can answer anything I might have missed about the IDTech. All right, does anyone else? Sorry?
Why did that button have to have it?
Gordon, I think I heard you answer the question, but I didn't quite get it. Cut out. Why did we not do ATM debit test on this?
On that last thing you did, why did it have to have its own merchant account?
Because the end-to-end encryption account, let me go back. I'm going to go back to some settings here. Give me a second. That's a good question. Sorry, I'm sharing the screen here. The account that's set up for the default has this checkbox I didn't go over. The use tokenization, the M token, that tells Keystroke to do end-to-end encryption with M token. M token is a way that they actually store the credit card, and we can go retrieve the information later for voids and so forth based on the token. So we never actually hold the credit card, and we actually send the credit card encrypted kind of through the back end, never look at it, never stored in Keystroke, never stored in KeyPay. And if we ever need to do a void, it actually goes out and sends the token back to Mercury and says, I need to void that transaction with that token, and that token gets unencrypted, and then it tells it what the card number is, and the back-end processor does it. Mercury only allows you to do that one way or the other way. It's on or off. And actually, these are two settings that need to be both on or both off. So we have to set up a different merchant account for it. And here's the merchant number for the manual. And in reality, they had kind of said that it would be the same number, but they might add a suffix on the end of it, like 002 or 001. And so we might have an account number that looks like this for the end-to-end. But if I go back to the manual setting, it would be the standard account without tokenization, meaning I'm going to key it in on a keyboard.
Yeah.
That's why you have to have two accounts. And that would be the same if you had, if Mercury sets you up, for instance, with two accounts, because maybe you do telephone orders and they insist you have one account for telephone orders, and you have retail or brick and mortar and they insist you have a different account for brick and mortar, you get to play by their rules, and that's one of the rules. And then, of course, you get to play the reconciliation game too. But if you have two payment types in Keystroke, it might be a little easier to reconcile. You know that everything that goes through Visa, MasterCard is going through the e-token device. If it's manually entered, that payment type is going through a different account. That was a good question. Any other questions?
The tokenization has to be set up on the Mercury side?
Yes, and I don't have a setup sheet in front of me, but if you ask them for a setup sheet of your merchant account, it does show two boxes, end-to-end encryption, then below it says tokenization, in parentheses, M token. Both of those have to be set up. If you don't have the second one set up or the first one, there's very specific error messages that you do get, and we kind of have a list of those. But it's always good to get the setup sheet from Mercury, then you can verify. And it only takes about 5 to 10 to 20 seconds when they hit the send key to get it updated. So what they'll do is you call them. You can call their standard tech support line, telling them what you like to do. They would add a second account, turn it on, give you that account number. It'll be ready to go within a minute or a couple of minutes. And the last thing is that ask them to email you the setup sheet. Then you have that for your records. Good question. Any other questions about the IDTech? Okay, well, thanks very much for attending. Next week, I don't have any pricing information on that, but next week we're going to be going over the Merchant Warehouse Genius device. Jay Restucci is going to go over that, and that works with Merchant Warehouse. All right, everyone, have a great day.